To begin this morning, I want to read you some lyrics from a song. This isn't a new song. It actually was originally released in 1973. Okay, but if you weren't listening to music in 1973, you probably have heard the song because it's lately been associated with a fairly well-known reality TV show. So, I'm going to read the lyrics, and I wonder if you will be able to guess what the band is trying to address. Okay? So the opening lyrics go like this. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Hold on, I'm not done. Money, 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 money. Now, do you think you know what it's talking about? We're wrapping up our stewardship focus this week, and we're diving into that ever so wonderful topic of finances and what it means to be faithful to God and to give ourselves to God and to the church through our treasures. Because it's a huge deal today. It can't be denied that we live in a financial world. And because we are called to live out our lives in faith as followers of Jesus, how we approach our dollars and our cents and our credit cards and lines of credit is in fact a spiritual issue. See, we often don't think it is. We kind of think that our spiritual stuff, well, that's kind of like prayer and Bible reading and going to church. But the things in our wallets and in our bank accounts, well, it's kind of divorced from our spiritual life. That's about me. But Jesus speaks a lot about money in Scripture. But when he does, he always addresses kind of the spirituality behind it, either the spiritual enrichment or the spiritual poverty that lies behind someone's association with wealth and giving. How do your treasures, how does the giving of yourself to God and to God's work via the money and the resources that you have reflect your faith in God? Or does it address some deficiency that you need to think about? Those are the questions that we're going to be pondering. Because the issue of prosperity and the issue of our treasures has always been an issue for the people of faith. And it's not because money is evil or bad. It's not because it's wrong to have it. But because it so easily overtakes our life. It usurps the place of lordship that only Jesus is to have. Right? That's why in one of the Gospels, Jesus says, you can't serve both God and money. Jesus kind of divinizes money. He kind of holds it up as a rival God that we can align ourselves with, that we live out service to. Jesus says if we live our lives in service to that bottom line, to our money, then what we're actually doing is living further and further away from a life of serving God. In the Old Testament, the prophets always spoke against the gods Baal and Asherah, and they were kind of consorts. Because they were the fertility gods. They were the gods that said, if you believe in me and you sacrifice to me, we're going to make your cows bigger. We're going to make everything more fertile. We're going to give you more crops and more cattle. And we're going to give you more children. And in that day, that's what it meant to be rich. The underlying issue of how we spend and interact with money is an issue of lordship. Now let's be clear. It's okay to have money. Personally, I like money. I like having money in my wallet. I like using it to do things and to purchase things that make me happy. I enjoy using it to make others happy. I like when others use it to make me happy. Money is okay. The issue isn't whether or not we have it or not, or we have a lot of it or a little bit. The issue is whether we see money as the means to invest ourselves in God's work in this world, or just as a means to pad our own interests and our own whims. What part of your financial and monetary life have you offered to God? There's this old expression that I kind of grew up with. I heard about a lot. Maybe you've heard it. You give somebody a gift and they gush over it and they say, "Oh, you shouldn't have." And the response usually is, "Oh, it's the least I could do." Now, have you ever thought of what you're actually saying? It's odd because you're kind of telling the person, "I could do more, but when I think about you and what I offer you, I don't want to do that much. I only want to do the least to pacify you." When it comes to our monetary life and the way we offer that to God and offer ourselves to God through our money, are we only doing the least that we can do? Are we just paying financial lip service to God and keeping the rest for ourselves? Now, it's not about dollars and cents. We all have different incomes. We all have different abilities. And so the amount is really not the most important thing. I remember when I was in seminary, I was going to school and to become a priest, and especially that first year, I had no income. And because I'm horrible at math, I found it really difficult to figure out what is 10% of zero that I'm supposed to give to the church. I can't figure that out. But for me, I knew that I needed to act in faith. I needed to live out my belief that Jesus would take care of my needs. And because that was important for me, because up to that point, I hadn't been doing that. All the way through my undergrad, even when I was a youth worker at a church, I was so concerned and worried and anxious about the money that I had that I saved it. I kept it. I wouldn't even spend it on a $1.50 Slurpee because I was afraid how that would affect the end of the month. And also, I didn't give anything to charities. I didn't give anything to the church. I kind of kept it all. And I always had this fear and anxiety produced in me. So when I went to seminary, I decided I need to do something to change that. And so I made a decision. I will give $5 every single week. It's not very much by any stretch of the imagination, but for me, it was an appropriate amount that communicated the offering of myself and my future to God. Now, week after week, when I put $5 into that plate and I went back out into the parking lot, guess what I found? Nothing. Did I find $5 randomly popping up all over the place? No. Did random strangers come and give me money? No. There were many times that I couldn't go out to dinner with friends or to a movie or anything like that because I didn't have any extra money. Miraculous amounts of cash didn't just arrive on my doorstep. But I always had enough. And more profoundly, that anxiety that I constantly had, that worrying over my financial picture, that stress and that kind of doubting that God would ever provide for me, that was kind of gone. It was replaced with this confidence that even in the end, God was with me. And if I just offered myself to God in the best way that I can, God would provide. See, when we allow our treasures to overtake our lives, what happens is that it begins to eat away at our faith because it becomes the focus of our life. And it leads us into this strange place where we will say things like, "I can't possibly give any more," as we go off and buy lattes every day at $5 a pop. Now, Alicia and I, we both love our Starbucks. See, but the lordship of Christ over our treasures means that we need to be willing to give them up. Because if paying for our drinks becomes more important than supporting our church and God's work in the world, something is wrong. And it's not wrong on a financial level, it's wrong on a spiritual level. Now, just so you know, if you're kind of getting a little bit uncomfortable here, churches have a hard time of doing this too. Churches often